Welcome back to episode 40 of the Calling Our Shot podcast. I'm Austin, joined by Logan, and today we are ranking all 32 NFL teams. You see our list on the screen, S being the best, A second best, B, C, and then D being the worst team. We got all 32 franchises here. You can see them on the screen. Logan and I are going to go through each of these, kind of give you our takeaways, and then and what we expect in this upcoming season. Less than 75 days away from the NFL season, Logan. It's a good time to be alive. How are you doing, first and foremost?
I'm doing amazing. Just seeing all those NFL logos on here really gets my football juices flowing, because here we are right in the smack dab in the summertime. And it's like we can think about football, we can dream about football, and now we actually get to do some just a little bit too early rankings, but I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, we're all about the NFL. Obviously, we'll have a ton of NFL videos coming your guys' way throughout the remainder of the offseason into the regular season. And, of course, next week we'll be talking about free agency for NBA, and then we'll be talking about the MLB the following week. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. We certainly would appreciate it. But, Logan, I'm going to give you the first team. What do you feel about the Arizona Cardinals?
All right. For anybody that this is their first time listening, I'm so low on the Arizona Cardinals. I've never been a believer. So I'm going to put them at a solid like B tier, right? This team on paper looks like an A or an S, right? For superior, but this is just a mediocre team with a lot of wasted talent. First of all, you got DeAndre Hopkins. Big question mark there. He couldn't stay healthy last year. This year he's got, I believe, a suspension for part of the year. And then we got Kyler Murray and his leadership off the field issues. We've got Cliff Kingsbury, who to me is a really overrated coach. There's a lot of question marks on a team. And that's why I have to put him as a mediocre team.
Yeah, we've talked about the Cardinals and bickered about them a good amount this year or last year. And they're a tough team to really predict. I would probably put them at an A tier if DeAndre Hopkins was healthy and back for all 6. He will be missing the first 6 games of the year. If he was healthy, I'd kind of lean towards an A tier. I just think this team learned a lot of lessons last year. They were the last unbeaten team in the NFL. And then they obviously fall through the second half of the year, losing their first round playoff game to the Rams. But I just think this team, once they get Hopkins back, I do really like an underrated trade, Marquise Hollywood Brown. I don't see him getting enough exposure. I think him being back in that offense with Kyler Murray, I think that's going to be an interesting tandem. But I can't argue too much with the B tier. I don't think they deserve to be any lower. You could maybe argue they go a little bit higher, but the Hopkins injury is going to be brutal for him for the first 6 weeks of the year. I'm going to tackle the Falcons. Man, this is a tough team. I'm sorry, Falcons fans. You're going D tier for me. And this is coming from a Jets fan, and I actually grew up outside of Atlanta, so I have some love in this Falcons franchise, but they don't really have much at the QB position. Or they start Marcus Mariota. We don't really know. Traded Matt Ryan. That down Calvin Ridley. All they got your boy Kyle Pitts. And maybe Kyle Pitts and your fandom for him will make you think they're a C tier, but I just am not high on the Falcons this year.
No, I agree with you. I'm right on there with the Falcons. I don't know what sort of evidence you would have besides just a blind faith that they might catch the league off guard this year to be able to move them up. Like you said, I love Kyle Pitts, Florida Gator, chomp chomp. But it's all about that defense looked really suspect a lot last year. Have they addressed a lot of those needs? Offensively, there's still a lot of question marks, especially as you mentioned Calvin Ridley. Where did they go? Marcus Mariota is just not going to vault me into a B or C tier. He's a D until proven otherwise.
Yeah, I agree with you. What about the Ravens? I'll let you tackle them.
Yeah, so we're moving them up to an A tier, right? I'm not quite ready to put them in the upper echelon S tier, but they're a solid A tier right now. I think they're a sneaky dark horse Super Bowl contender. I really think Lamar Jackson's going to have a big season. He's got undeniable chemistry with Mark Andrews. I think the defense is going to be a lot better this year. Look, the Ravens were a mass unit last year. Everyone remembers every single position that they could have an injury at, pretty much they did. So having a full season to kind of recoup that and address some things, I do like. I don't like that they shipped off Hollywood Brown a little bit, but that's just going to make Lamar Jackson play even better.
Yeah, I know. I was surprised you didn't put him on an S tier because I know they were like your Super Bowl dark horse a couple of podcasts ago. But I am not going to fight you at this A tier. I love Lamar Jackson. Obviously, Marquise Hollywood Brown already talked about. He's no longer there. Curious to see Mark Andrews' numbers at the end of the year. I mean, last year the guy put up ridiculous numbers. How does he do better than that? I don't know. Rashad Bateman obviously going to have to step up. And then you look at that running back room. Yeah, you're right. They suffered a ton of injuries at the running back position. They had to rely on Gus Edwards, be RB1. Basically, starting week 1, J.K. Dobbins should be back and ready to go. I'm curious where he goes in a lot of fantasy football drafts. Maybe we talk about him a couple weeks from now in terms of fantasy football sleepers we like. But Ravens are going to be an interesting team. Now, next, Buffalo Bills, put them S tier. And, right before the podcast, I was talking to my fiance, Trina, and she was asking, I don't know why she asked. I told her we were talking about the NFL teams, all 32, and she asked, who do you think wins the Super Bowl? I think it's the Buffalo Bills. I just think this team is due. I mean, you think about all the heartbreak they've suffered in the last couple of years. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, both locked into long-term deals. This team got Von Miller, too. They got even better. I just think this team, eventually they got to crack through, and I think they're going to get into that Super Bowl. I mean, you think about the Chiefs, they took a step back. And you got the Chargers going a step up and those types of teams. But really the main competition for this Bills team has been the Kansas City Chiefs. So I really love Josh Allen, love the Bills. They're my S-tier team. They're going to be my team I'm going to pick to win the Super Bowl.
It's really hard, this early to even be able to argue with you. I don't know what sort of counterpoints I could have against the Bills, because to me, I think they have a really great path to the Super Bowl. As you mentioned, I think they obviously are the kings of their division, right? They're the odds-on favorites to pretty much cakewalk through the division. Then they'll probably set up some sort of really good playoff matchup. As you mentioned, Chiefs didn't get better. Bills got better. They got Von Miller. Von Miller just travels to Super Bowl teams. It's just what he does. So, it's a good omen for the Bills that he's there. I would like to see, though, a little bit more balanced attack, right? The Bills just never want to run the ball. They never need to run the ball when you have a gunslinger like Josh Allen. But that would help them, maybe in playoff time. So just a little bit of a nitpick.
And let's see what your bias is for this next team, the Carolina Panthers.
Oh, man, I want to move them up. I want to move them anywhere but a D, but they're still a D. I'm sorry. Yeah, put them up in the S, man. My Carolina Panthers, man, they're sadly right now in rebuild mode. I mean, Sam Darnold, not the man. He's not the man. And you know what? I hope that me trashing them and putting them in this D tier will inspire them this year. Inspire some greatness out of Sam Darnold. But this is the year 2 of the Darnold project. Will it work? Will it not? We have addressed some offensive line issues, which I really, that makes me smile. It makes me smile a lot. Christian McCaffrey, can you stay healthy, my man? Please. That's all I'm asking. If that can happen, maybe they are a BC tier, but right now they're unfortunately a D.
I mean, the good thing for them is they're tied with another divisional opponent in the Falcons in the D tier, so they could have some easy wins coming their way. I'm not going to fight you on the Panthers, but let's move on to the Chicago Bears, one of the more interesting teams. When I'm doing these rankings, I'm going to put them in a C tier. Maybe I'm a little too high on this team, but I just think Justin Fields is going to step up a little bit this year. I think their offensive line obviously is going to have a little bit more chemistry. They got a new head coach, obviously. And so I just think maybe I'm high on this team. Obviously, they're down Allen Robinson, but they still got David Montgomery, who I think is going to have another big year. Their weapons for Justin Fields to throw to are not the greatest, but they did get Byron Pringle, tried to give him a name drop, boom, boom. Byron deserved it. I think they're a C tier. I wouldn't argue if anyone wanted to put them D tier, though.
Yeah, I'd move them down to a D tier. Sorry, Byron Pringle, wide receiver 1. That moves you down to a D tier. This is the Bears are gonna. If the Bears are gonna have any success this year, it's gonna have to be ugly. It's gonna have to be a 13-10 type game. I'm sorry, I just don't see any other way that they're gonna have to win a game. That's why they go to a D tier for me until proven otherwise. But it is somewhat promising that they did get rid of Matt Nagy, though.
Yeah, I mean, that can't hurt them, right? They can't be any worse. No. Obviously, it doesn't help losing Allen Robinson and Khalil Mack, 2 of probably the top 3 or 4 jersey sellers for the fan base. But Justin Fields, he's going to have to step up and play better this year, and I think he will do that. Now, Family Schneider, I know he's probably watching. Your Bengals, Logan, what are you feeling on him this year?
Ooh, who day?
Conversations.
Yeah, all right. I love me some Bengals last year, but they're an A tier right now. They're in that Super Bowl conversation, but I have to hand out a little bit of regression, right? They would be an S tier if I didn't think they were going to regress at all. I do like what they did in the offseason. They've addressed some things. They've returned a lot of starters, which I think is definitely only going to help them. They just play, they play tough opponents. They play in the AFC. If you ask me, 9 times out of 10, who wins versus Bills and Bengals, I think it's Bills at least 70, 80% of the time. That's why I can't put them up in the S tier, but in the A tier, they're a contender and they belong. And they showed us that last year.
Yeah. I don't want to disrespect them and put them towards a B tier. I'm curious at the end of this list. I feel like they're an A minus. If I had an A minus, I'd probably put them there. I do think they're due a little bit of regression. It'll be interesting to see how this division plays out. It's going to be tough. Obviously, the Ravens were pretty high on them this year. The next team we'll talk about is the Browns and the Steelers, who, we don't know what they're doing with their QB position, but we know Mike Tomlin. He's always going to win games. So we'll talk about the Steelers in a little bit. I'm not going to argue with the Bengals at the A tier. I know Bengals fans will be coming for us if we put them in the B tier. So we'll keep them there to appease people in the comments. We don't need to be absolutely attacked. But going to their division rival, the Browns, I'm gonna put the Browns B tier, and that might get us some hate down below. But there's the main question mark here is Deshaun Watson. We don't know as of June 28th, 8:06 p.m. We're recording this night. We don't know Deshaun Watson's status. Could he be suspended for 6 games? Could he be suspended for 16? Could he be not suspended? We have no idea, and that's going to take a big toll on this Browns team because either you're going from Deshaun Watson, one of the best QBs in the NFL, obviously didn't play all of last year, or you go down to Baker Mayfield, probably not going to be there, or Jacoby Brissett. Look, that's a big downgrade. I know they got a great defense led by Myles Garrett, but I just don't have a lot of faith in this team. And if Deshaun Watson's active and he's back for 13, 14 games, I'd probably move him up to an A tier team. But with that question mark looming over their heads, I have to put them as a B tier team, and no higher, no lower.
They're a solid B. You have them ranked, right? We have a consensus on this one, simply because I just think with those question marks at quarterback. Is there running back, room, which is probably the best running back room in the league? Is that enough to carry them, right? Because I just sit there and I think worst case scenario would be a guy like Baker if they were somehow to retain him, or a guy like Brissett, just those game manager type quarterbacks. That's like a 6-win, ceiling for you there. So that's just like a painfully average team. I do like their defense, of course, what they're doing there. Return several starters, and Myles Garrett is an absolute stud. So I think B is good for now. But it's just in that average tier, right? With the Cardinals, makes sense.
Yeah, they could be like a B plus, like a high B, and we put them in front of the Cardinals. But I think they got a chance, obviously, this year, depending on Deshaun Watson's status. But Logan, Cowboys, your turn.
Yeah, the Cowboys, they're an S tier. They're an S tier. This is we're starting to get spicy finally. They're an S tier with S tier coaching. They have S-tier talent, right? They have that Super Bowl talent. They have all of the pieces. Can their coaches just step out of the way, just not make any boneheaded decisions? I love Dak Prescott. He's a quarterback that gets hate for no reason when they're losing, and he doesn't really, to me, get all that credit when they're winning. I love what this Cowboys team could be. I fantasize about it like probably a lot of other. I'm not a Cowboys fan, but I think about what their potential could be, and they could easily be in the NFC Championship. I know they're an accident waiting to happen. We've heard that storyline enough. But one of these years, they're actually going to finally not be an accident waiting to happen. And I just want to be ahead of the curve. Sue me.
Man, that's a bold prediction. I'd probably put them a little bit lower, but I can't argue with the talent. It all comes down to coaching, and it really comes down to how big of a year Ezekiel Elliott has. I think he's probably the lifeblood of this team. They obviously have Tony Pollard there. He'll play his role, but if Ezekiel Elliott is not doing what he normally has been doing, the past 5 to 7 years, then I don't think this team's going to make it too far. They can't rely on Dak Prescott to throw it 45 times a game. They just can't do that. Their offensive line isn't as good as it used to be in like that DeMarco Murray kind of days. But I'm not going to argue with it here, as we're in the summer. No time to argue. We're just happy to talk about football. But I'm going to tackle the Broncos. I think an interesting team. I'd argue they're at least a B tier. But obviously, the addition of Russell Wilson is a question mark here. And you know what? I'm getting spicy. Put them in A tier. I love the Broncos this year. We know how good their offense or their defense was last year. It was great. They obviously traded Von Miller, still a great defense. The question mark here is Russell Wilson and how big of a difference does he make? And Drew Lock, sorry, man, if you're listening, you weren't all that good last year. And neither were the other QBs that were filling in for him. I just think this Russell Wilson going there with the combination of Jerry Jeudy, combination of Cortland Sutton, now Javonte Williams with a year under his belt as a running back. We saw Javonte Williams. A lot of people will like him in fantasy this year. Not a surprise. This guy breaks tackles like nothing. But I just love the Broncos this year, and I just think they're an A-tier team. Maybe I'm a little too high on them, but you also have the home field advantage playing in Mile High. Teams are going to have to get adjusted to that. It's hard to adjust and beat them in Mile High. I've seen the Broncos too good on both sides of the ball. Give me the Broncos A-tier.
Yeah, well, you know what? I might have to move them down to a B just because of their division that they play in, because they play in a really tough division. And I just have to ask myself, is Russell Wilson, a pop and drop type, winner day one? Absolutely. So that's why, like, I get your case for an A tier is really compelling. Russell Wilson, proven winner. I mean, if there's anybody that the Broncos have just been craving at that quarterback position, it's a guy like him. But I don't know. I just think it needs to be a little bit more average. Curb your expectations. I feel like Broncos fans might have enormous expectations. Year one of Russell Wilson, I don't know. I just need to see a little bit more.
We'll see exactly. That's going to be one of the more interesting teams to watch. Obviously, they're always going to be normally in that 4 o'clock window. I expect a lot of their games to be televised this year too. So we'll have our eyes peeled on this Russell Wilson Broncos connection. But Logan, you got the Detroit Lions up next.
Yeah, and you know what? If it weren't for Dan Campbell, they'd be a D tier team, but I'm putting them in a C. Because if the Bears get to be a C, so do the Lions, because the Lions are just their division rivals that are just about as equal as them. To me, the Lions are scrappy. They competed in games that they shouldn't have competed in last year. They won games that they shouldn't have won last year. This is the NFL. It's a league of parity. Look, they're not a sexy team one bit, right? Name me 5 Lions off the top of your head. You might not be able to. But this is a team that just, like I said, I love how they play through their head coach, and I love how they're just not going to lay down and roll over for anybody. They're at least a C given off that fact.
It's the offseason. I'm not allowed to shame Lions fans. It's just not something you can do in the offseason. I'm all for it. Dan Campbell, we're big fans. We're biting some kneecaps over here. Moving on to the division rival who's probably owned all these teams, putting the Packers up as an man. As I put them as an S tier, I don't know if I can trust them. But, if the dang Cowboys are there, might as well put the dang Packers there as an S tier team. I mean, sure, you can say we lost Javonte Adams. I understand that. I'm just banking on an Aaron Rodgers saying, you know what, fine. I don't need you, Javonte. I'm here to step up and win some games. This is a team that they just have to. Eventually, they got to put it together. It's just like the Cowboys. They get into the playoffs. They've just been screwing it up. And I just think eventually Aaron Rodgers is going to have a good game in the playoffs, and they're going to have to play well. And I just think maybe this is the year without Davante Adams. Now teams might not be able to game plan for him as easily. Everyone knew they were just going to Davante Adams in the red zone. Maybe they'll become a more balanced team, a lot more on that run game. And the run game was really with one of the parts that they won so many games in the regular season was with that run game led by A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. I think the Packers bounce back year. I mean, it's hard to say bounce back year. They were like 13-3 or 13-4 last year, but I think they got a chance this year. And I think, the NFC is a little bit open. You got obviously some good teams we haven't talked about yet, but I think they got as good of a chance as anyone else.
Yeah. See, if I'm allowed to put the Cowboys up there, you're allowed to put the Packers up there in the S tier as well. But I mean, I can't really say anything about Aaron Rodgers' game except for he comes up a little bit small in big moments. And I mean, that's just got to be in the back of his head. I really did think he was going to conquer those demons against, the 49ers. 49ers just played such a scrappy brand of football. Mad respect, 49ers, mad respect. But I mean, they're an S tier team. They're going to be in the conversation of the NFC Championship. That's for sure. I
mean, yeah, they should be there unless something goes awry. We got 3 straight AFC South teams, Logan. You're up with the Texans.
Yeah. All right, Texans, D. Come on, there's no doubt about that. Texans might be picking number 1 next year if they have their draft pick, maybe. The Texans. There's just not a whole lot to say. They're in hard rebuild mode, right? You lost Deshaun Watson. You just can't get a lot right. D.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. I do think this team is. I like what they're doing to rebuild. Obviously, trying to focus on a youth movement, trying to get younger guys in there. I don't hate it. Texans, I'll be rooting for you guys this year. Hopefully you can get it done. Colts. Here's a Colts team. Oh, man. I'm going to put them at a B tier. And here's why. Now, this team has the talent to be an A, probably the talent. If they put everything together, even close to have Super Bowl aspirations. But I have to see it to believe it. We've seen Matt Ryan, obviously the big acquisition. They got rid of Carson Wentz, who was an eyesore to watch. And they got Matt Ryan now leading the helm. And that's why I'm putting them as a B-tier team. If Matt Ryan's playing like we've seen Matt Ryan, MVP caliber, I'm not asking him to play like an MVP this year. He doesn't need to do that. But if he can play and there are 25 touchdowns, 8 and 10 interceptions, this Colts team should be an A tier. This team should win a lot of games. They have a great defense. We obviously know they have Jonathan Taylor. I mean, they do not need Matt Ryan to be throwing 45 times a game like he had to do with the Falcons. So I'm excited to watch the Colts. It's going to be a fun team to watch, see exactly the lines and how often they're favored and whatnot. They are the favorites to win this division, which is interesting. We'll talk about the Titans a little bit later, but I really like the Colts this year. I'm just going to put them at a B tier to just kind of hurt my feelings because I don't want them to get. I don't want me to put them in A and then just see them lose to the Jags again and miss the playoffs.
Yeah, this team runs through Jonathan Taylor, though, right? He's the absolute workhorse. He might be, we're not talking fantasy, but he might be the #1 fantasy running back, next year, just because given workload, as long as he can stay healthy, this team should definitely be in contention.
Yeah, Taylor should be one of one. Sorry to give you 2 AFC South stinkers, but what about the Jags?
Yeah, I know. I hate that. Yeah, that Jags are a D as well. I mean, this is the bottom of the barrel division. Trevor Lawrence, man, he just made some really dumb turnovers last year. When I was watching a lot of Jags games, he would throw off the back of his foot, just kind of some YOLO mode. He reminded me of, just the classic rookie quarterback that doesn't learn, that sometimes a punt is okay. He was just doing a little bit too much. That team had a lot of turmoil and injuries. I mean, getting back ETN will probably be helpful for that offense. James Robinson another year, in that system. Yeah, still a D though. Sorry.
I would disagree with you. I think they're a C tier team. And there's a reason why. I don't think Trevor Lawrence will make as many mistakes as he did last year. And they don't have to deal with the Urban Meyer drama. I mean, Urban Meyer was making headlines week after week. And I know, he's sort of has some ties to your Gators, but he was just a mess of a head coach. And I'm happy to see them, kind of go a different route with Doug Peterson. Obviously, he's won a Super Bowl with the Eagles before. I'm excited for this Jags team. I'm not saying they're going to come out here and go 9-8 or whatever. They're not making playoffs, like but this is a team. This is a team that I think it's a 6-7 win team. Whereas I think I would argue D tier is probably like 3 to 5 wins. And this team gets about 6 wins. Maybe it's 2 on the Texans and whatnot. But I do think this team is going to be pretty decent this year. And I do like ETN being back. James Robinson, obviously, they have some wide receivers. We'll see how those guys go. But I do think this team will be all right. Maybe I'll be completely wrong. And you won't see me betting on the Jags a lot, but I'm hopeful that they at least turn it around. Trevor Lawrence has got to play better this year. But I'm moving to the Chiefs. And this is a team that, based on previous years, you'd easily put them as an S tier. But I'm going to put them as an A tier. And there's maybe this will get a lot of hate. Maybe you can argue with me on this one. But I just think Tyreek Hill was such a big part of this offense that, sure, you have the speed in McCole Hardman. You don't have the talent in McCole Hardman. And I know people pull up all these. McCole Hardman averages, 60% more fantasy points per game when Tyreek Hill's out. Well, yeah, of course, he's out. And then, teams aren't going to game plan for McCole Hardman like they will Tyreek Hill. But I'm just a little bit scared of this team. They got Juju Smith-Schuster, who's going to replace some of those. I'm just not. Juju coming off all the injuries and whatnot. Obviously, Travis Kelce will still be there. I do think if I had to rank them, this is like an A+, or A+ would sound like an S tier, but I do think this is a top A team, but I just don't know. I just think this team is an interesting one to watch this year, and I'm putting them as an A tier. Hate me, Chiefs fans. I don't care.
They should be an S. That's just you completely fumbling the bag. You completely not understanding what kind of special talent Patrick Mahomes is. Patrick Mahomes can do a lot with a little. Okay, he will make the players around him better. He's an elite quarterback for a reason. As long as he still has Travis Kelce, I'm fine right there. I think what you're going to see the Chiefs do a lot more of. Rely on some running backs, right? CEH was MIA a lot last year. You've got. You just have to rely a lot more on the running game. Andy Reid is a great offensive mind. Yes, losing Tyreek Hill is a gut punch for sure to that offense. But you know what? They're just going to have to be more creative. It's what they do. They will scheme around it, and they'll be right in contention. They should be an S, and that's disrespectful.
Hey, you know what? I don't care. You're going to rank their division rival, the Chargers.
Yeah.
One of the interesting teams this year.
Chargers are an interesting team. And you know what? As interesting as they are, they're still a B. They're still a B because they're still improvement mode to me. I look, they're a great on paper team. They're a great team to use on Madden because they got a lot of stars, a lot of fun players to play with, like Justin Herbert, as you mentioned, Khalil Mack. I just don't trust when the lights are the brightest, and I don't trust when backs are against the wall that this is a team that can just overcome adversity. Look, the way I'm looking at it, would I take the Chiefs over them to win that division? Yes, every day of the week, every day that ends in Y, I would take the Chiefs over them. So I need the Chiefs to reflect that and then being a tier above them. I don't think they're on the same level as the Chiefs, not yet at least. Give them a couple years to gel. You've just got a lot of new parts. Football's a game of just, chemistry. And I think this Chargers team's a lot of piecemeal players, and it's going to take a little bit of time to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. They are like a Madden team, and Brandon Staley, their head coach, plays like it's Madden. He's going for it on fourth down everywhere. That's what he does. I can't argue with this being the Chargers being here. They've been a team that we're like they're an Austin Eckler gets injured every game. Keenan Allen also is injury prone somewhat, and And this team has to prove it to me. They obviously have all the talent in the world. And I'd argue me putting the Chiefs as an A tier is kind of a nod to how tough their division has gotten. Obviously, the Broncos, we put them here. Chargers are still a good team. And then the Raiders, which we'll get to in a second. But I just think the Broncos or the Chargers are in such a tough division. Just like, I mean, they're going to have to go against the Chiefs, the Broncos, and the Raiders. Those are teams that are going to be tough to win, whereas other teams might have an easier path to the playoffs. We still do think the Chargers are going to be a good team. Maybe they'll make the wild card, but it's going to be tough sledding in that division. But moving on to the next team, the LA Rams, the reigning Super Bowl champs, and I can't put them anywhere but the S tier. This team got even better. I don't know who their financial accountant is, but round of applause to him because that guy is pulling out money from places that I don't know where he's getting it from, but obviously upgrading. They lost Von Miller. Sure, you lost him. You got Bobby Wagner. You got Allen Robinson. Secured some long-term deals for Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp. Look, this team's just retooled. I don't know necessarily Odell Beckham Jr. status. He might still be on the team. Who knows? But you don't really need him. You got Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, and Van Jefferson. That will do the trick. This is a team that's got so much talent loaded on both sides of the football with Jalen Ramsey, obviously on the other side. This team's just so good. I think they obviously finally, you saw them kind of, work it into the first couple of weeks of the season and first half of the year, kind of just getting into a groove. Sean McVay, Matt Stafford getting back on the same page. Finally clicked towards the end of the year, and you saw them make a run and win the Super Bowl. I got to put them S tier until they're proven otherwise.
Yeah, they're an S tier, for sure. Cooper Kupp, love you, man. You made me some money as Super Bowl MVP, so nothing but love, Rams fans.
Let's round out this AFC West with the Raiders.
Yeah, Raiders are a B. They're a B. Now, I honestly kind of was leaning C, but I was like, the Raiders are competitive a lot. They're kind of, to me, they belong neck and neck with the Chargers to me. I don't think the Chargers are exponentially better. Maybe a little bit on paper, maybe a little bit more of a flashy team. But Derek Carr is just a steady Eddie quarterback. I love Darren Waller. The defense, Max Crosby, they have a lot of solid pieces, and they're going to be right in there. They make life hell for the Chiefs. A lot of those teams don't want to travel to Vegas because they know that's going to have to be a grinded out team. I do like the Chiefs or Raiders as like a solid B.
I can't disagree with that. Now the next one, the Dolphins. It's an interesting team. It's an interesting team, and while I'm going, they're not an A tier. My decision between a B and a C, and I'm going to get a hot take. I'm going to give them a C plus. Now, sure, they probably are better than the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions, but I would argue I'd take every team in that B tier over this Dolphins team. So I got to put them in a C tier, and I know Dolphins fans, I know you guys are so excited for this year. You got a new head coach. You got Tyreek Hill. You got all this bells and whistles and whatnot. But I think that takes some time to gel. We saw, a guy like Cliff Kingsbury coming out of college, and his Cardinals team struggled for the first couple of years. And I think that's going to be a little bit of struggles this year for the Dolphins. I think way too many people are high on them, betting their overs for win totals and all of that. People forget that this team is in a tough division. And well, you got the Jets, we'll talk about in a second, but you're still going up against the Bills and going up against the Patriots. Two teams that are tough to win against. And I don't know if they'll pull any wins against the Bills. They might split against the Patriots. They do always play them tough. But I think a first-year head coach, it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit harder for them to win. They're going to realize how tough winning is in the NFL. I'll come down to Tua Tagovailoa. How well does he play? Mm-hmm. Obviously, Tyreek Hill will be that big. It will be helpful, but I'm just not too high on this Dolphins team. Are you high on them? Do you think I should move them up? Am I being disrespectful?
I don't think you're being disrespectful at all. I actually love that you put him at a C because, look, Tua, he was great. He was great in college. Definitely an undeniable talent. But I don't have a lot of faith in his accuracy. And that's kind of a big thing at quarterback, right? And I know who am I to question. I'm not an NFL scout by any stretch of the imagination. But the eye test, I see him miss a lot of throws that other quarterbacks are making. And you know what, Tyreek Hill? That's not Patrick Mahomes back there. I'm just saying, you're going to miss him. You're going to miss your boy Mahomes. And this is a tough division. I like your point about what you said about who they're going to be facing. I think they're about the third best team in this division. So being the third best team, why should they be an A or a B tier? No, they should be a C because that's kind of how we've been ranking them so far.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue maybe the Raiders based on, they're probably the fourth best team in their division, but I think we're just a little bit higher on Derek Carr and Devontae Adams than we are the duo of Tua Tagovailoa and Devontae or Tyreek Hill. I mean, I think that's pretty easy. Derek Carr and Devontae Adams. I like Josh McDaniels better as a head coach than the new Dolphins head coach. So I don't mind putting them there. Maybe it's a hot take. Maybe Dolphins fans will attack us in the comments, but deal with it. Logan, Vikings.
Yeah, Vikings. Oh man,
they are like the Chargers. I'd argue very on paper.
That's why they have to be in the B, and they have to. And I think they're a low B. I think I'd take several of those teams over the Vikings just because I mean, look, offensively, can Dalvin Cook stay healthy? It's kind of like the Christian McCaffrey of the world. Like, can he stay healthy? Can he play a full season? That's a big question mark. If can Kirk Cousins be a primetime quarterback? He's a really good statistical quarterback at times. So he'll pump up his numbers and he'll throw for a lot of touchdowns with Jefferson, obviously. But I have a really hard time putting them in the upper elite category of an S or an A. And to me, they're just a solid B. They're a mediocre football team.
I don't really disagree with you. I'd love to disagree with you for the content's sake, but I think the big winner here, Justin Jefferson. Obviously, he's seen all these guys get big paydays, and he's had one of the best starts to his career we've ever seen from wide receiver. So shout out him. But I think this team is just, on paper, they're an A tier, but when they play, they're a C tier, averages out to B tier. That's why they're there. But let's move on to the Patriots, team we just talked about. I'm going to put them again. I hate having so many B tier teams, but I'd argue they're middle of the pack here. I think right now we have 7 B tier teams. I think if the Patriots played all 6 of these other ones, they'd probably go 3-3, 4-2 against them, just because Bill Belichick's good enough to beat some of those teams. And they're not an A tier team. I don't think they're better than those teams. Those teams have a little bit more offensive firepower, but we don't really know what the heck the Patriots are doing on offense. Bill Belichick, I don't know if he's named an offensive coordinator. They lost Josh McDaniels, and Bill's just like, whatever. And so I'm putting them as an A or B tier team just because I think Mac Jones will have a better season this year. I mean, obviously he was pretty good as his rookie season, but I think he'll be even better this year. And they obviously still have a lot of talent on the offensive side with guys like Kendrick Bourne. Sorry, I had to give him a shout out. He earned it, but I think they're a B tier team. Do you disagree?
Yeah, they're about a B. I was kind of flirting with maybe are they an A, but they kind of look strange up there with a second year quarterback. So they're about a B. I do love Damian Harris. I love their ability to just ground and pound and win those ugly type games. It's what the Patriots do. They win on defense, special teams especially. They're always competitive and they always will be good. So B is about right for now.
All right, Logan. The New Orleans Saints, an interesting team. We don't really know their quarterback situation. Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston, who knows? Sean Payton now gone. Where do you rank them?
It doesn't matter. They're a C. There's a whole trend here with the NFC South for it. And I wanted to put them in the D, but that's just a little bit too disrespectful. The Saints are about a C. Jameis Winston, whatever's going on at the quarterback position, I don't really care, honestly. Like it's just not a team that has any sort of offensive continuity. Last year, to me, they were really decimated at the wide receiver position. Is Michael Thomas finally going to come back and be flexing Michael Thomas, catching all those 5-yard slants every down? Maybe, I don't know, but there's way too many question marks for me to say they're even an above average football team or even an average football team. That's why I have to put them at a C. I do like the Saints defense, and obviously we know how tough it is to go into the Superdome and play. But that being said, I mean, I look at the teams that they're tiered with, and I'm like, yeah, they could make an interesting game out of some of those teams that they're with.
Yeah, I'd argue they're a higher C, kind of like a C+. Probably I would argue they're probably the toughest C team that we have here. I'd probably put them in front of the Dolphins, but I like this team. It's just going to be interesting with the new head coach, and I do think that they're going to be better. They're going to be decent this year. They do need Michael Thomas. I mean, we need to see his status because we have no idea what he's going to be doing. But they did some good, interesting moves this offseason. Interesting note, we haven't really talked about Alvin Kamara. Apparently could be facing a suspension to start the year. That could be big news. Mm-hmm. Who knows what happens with his status. So I kind of like them in the C tier. Could they be better? I mean, when they're playing the Buccaneers, they're an S tier. But when they're playing anyone else, they're like a C, D tier. Sure. So I'm kind of comfortable with them there. Let's get into these 2 New York teams, though. Giants and Jets. You'll tackle the Jets. I wish I could tackle the Jets. Giants, they're C and a D. Sorry, friends. I'm going to be, just because we're in June 29th, technically when this goes live, I'll give you some optimism as a C tier. Now, will they make the playoffs? Probably not. But what I do like is I do like the new coaching regime. I don't remember the guy's name, but the Bills, the offensive coordinator. I do like him coming over, Brian Dable. And this Giants team does have talent. When we think about on the offensive side of the ball, Saquon Barkley, Kadarius Toney, Darius Slayton, they got talent. And they have some guys on defense that can make some plays. The question comes down to Daniel Jones. What do we get from him? And that's kind of a same question mark for a lot of these kind of C-tier teams. Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Fields, Jared Goff, Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston, then Danny Dimes. We don't know what we're getting from Danny Dimes. I think a new head coach might help him this year. I don't necessarily think they're the top C team. Maybe they won't be more than 7 and 7-9 or 7-10. But I do think this is a lower C team. But I think this team's going to surprise some people and win some games they have no business winning this year.
Yeah, if they could get any sort of production out of Kenny Golladay, that would go a long way, right? They have, as you mentioned, they have the talent. That's why I think they're a pretty comfortable C team as far as where they're ranked. Because again, they in that division, they can certainly rack up some cheeky divisional wins. So I do agree with you there.
Yeah, and so let's move on to the other New York team. Logan, lay me down easy with this one.
Yeah, come on. You and I's team are both D tier teams, and that's just simply facts.
Put us next to each other.
Yeah, it looks cute like that. But honestly, I mean, Zach Wilson, I do like the way he's progressing, right? That's certainly a positive. Has the Jets done enough to address the offensive line? Because last year I'm pretty sure Zach Wilson went to bed in a full body cast because he was just getting absolutely beat up. That's tough on a young quarterback because it speeds up their mental clock and everything. And the Jets just haven't, to me, surrounded him with enough weapons, offensively. And then I think about the defensive side of the ball. Sauce Gardner, great draft, pick there. But it definitely takes time in the NFL to gel your defensive back unit. And he sometimes got a little handsy in college. And I know in the NFL they're looking to throw flags in there. So sometimes it takes rookies time to adjust to the NFL game.
Yeah, I feel like I can't disagree with you putting them here. Now, I know a lot of Jets fans, including myself. I have my Jets pennant right behind me. Jets and their social media team makes us look like an A-tier team. They do a very good job hyping us up and making us look good. I think by the end of the year, if I'm a Jets fan, and I'm hoping we finish in this C tier, maybe an upper C. I think this team has some tools. It's just whether or not they put it together and they play well. It's a team that's going to have a lot of youth on this team from offense, defense. They're going to be a very big youth movement, which I love to see as a Jets fan, but sometimes it's tough to have young players kind of get into that winning groove. And all it takes is a short losing streak, losing the first couple games. And that really just spirals, a lot of young players' confidence. And it doesn't help that the Jets schedule, I don't know who made the schedule because it's probably the stupidest thing I've ever seen. We start with the complete AFC North. I don't remember the exact order, but we go Ravens, Bengals, Browns, Steelers. Not necessarily the best division we want to start against. I certainly would pick some other divisions, but I just think we're going to start slow, and it will take a little bit to build some momentum for this team. So I don't mind putting him as a D tier. I do expect Zach Wilson to play better. Garrett Wilson, the rookie, I think 10th overall pick, should be pretty decent. The wide receiver. Sauce Gardner, he might struggle. He's a corner. He's a rookie corner. He's going to struggle sometimes this year, but big things expected from him. I think they had a good draft, a good offseason overall. They got guys coming back. I love what they're doing long-term view. It all comes down to Zach Wilson. How does he play this year? And I think as Jets fans, we just wanted to play decent. We're not expecting Zach Wilson to come out and throw 40 touchdowns and have 5 interceptions. Not expecting that. But, if he can throw 25, 30 touchdowns, limit the interceptions to, 10 to 15, I think Jets fans will be certainly very happy with his progression. So I think Jets are an interesting team. I don't necessarily think they're going to win more than 5 games this year, but this will be a decent team. And plus, everyone bet they're over and win total like 6.5. That ain't happening. So I think the Jets will be all right, but they'll be about a 5-win team this year. Moving on to the Eagles, where you're real close to this Eagles stadium. I'm going to put this team. This is a tough team to rank. I'm sorry, Eagles fans. I'm going to put you as a C tier team. And there's a couple different reasons why. I have not seen enough out of Jalen Hurts to say that this team deserves to be any higher. I think if you were to match the Eagles up against all the 7 teams above them in a B tier, I don't think they win more than 3 of those games. I think this team is struggling for an identity. Some games they want to run the ball 25 times, and they are successful then. Some games they don't. This team struggles with an identity. Obviously, A.J. Brown on the team now. The team has a lot of heart. They have a lot of passionate fan base, but I have to see it to believe it from Jalen Hurts. And I love Jalen Hurts. You saw me taking a lot of his overs and player props for like passing and rushing yards combined. He made us some money this NFL season, this past one. I just have to see it to believe it. And I would argue they're better than a lot of these C-tier teams. I think they're more of like a C+, but I just am not as big believer in Jalen Hurts in this Eagles offense.
I agree with you. No arguments here. Sorry, Philly fans. I'm not coming to bat for you on this one. I think I have not seen enough from Hurts. You're totally right on that one. A team that refuses to feed Miles Sanders is just not a team that I want. I want a team that's able to say, we're going to keep the defense honest. We're not going to have to, put our tired defense out there real quick. And, the Eagles, what they really struggled with last year, it was, especially in their playoff game against the Bucks, I just remember that tired defense was just like, oh, not again. They're just like running out there. And that's the problem you have with non-balanced offenses. So until they can correct that, I agree with you. I think they're about a C.
Yeah, this is a team. If you could tell me Miles Sanders was going to run the ball 15 times every game, I'd move him up to B tier. But I can't. There's games Miles Sanders gets 2 carries for 1 yard, and you're like, what happened? And that's just we don't know what the Eagles are going to do. Now you got your fiance's team, Pittsburgh Steelers. Where are you ranking them? She might be able to hear you.
Freudian slip, fiance.
Girlfriend. Oh no, fiance. Your girlfriend. Maybe I was.
Oops. Unless you know something I don't know, but yeah, no, she's a Steelers fan. But yeah, I hate to break her heart on this one, but the Steelers are also in that C tier. Sorry, you got Mitch Trubisky at quarterback. Enough said. Moving on.
I can't disagree here too much. I was watching the Pat McAfee show on Tuesday, and Kenny Pickett was on the show. He made me want to move him up to B tier, but I don't expect him to start this year. I think Mike Tomlin is good enough to get them, those 8 wins, but I think there's teams in the C tier that could be close to 500, 9-8, or I'd argue B tier is probably closer to 10 wins. So I think the Steelers will be better than people think they'll be this year, but not a great team. Sorry, Crystal, you're not a fiance yet. Sorry, man. But let's move on to the Seahawks. An interesting team. Sorry, you're going D tier, and you can't do anything about it. Drew Lock, I'm not a big believer in you. You lost Russell Wilson, a guy that basically had to win you games in the fourth quarter. This is a team that is just in shambles. Pete Carroll, I'm surprised he still has a job so far. And so I'm just not – they're probably better than a lot of these D-tier teams, but I'm here to make a statement. I think the Seahawks are trash. I don't think they're a very good football team this year. And they're going to need Rashad Penny to run for 200 yards every game if they're going to be competitive.
Yeah, no arguments from here. I mean, the Seahawks they kind of really nuked their team. I mean, you got you have we'll have a disgruntled DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. With Drew Lock, that noodle arm throwing you the ball. Sorry, not sorry.
That's good. Sorry, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, dynasty owners. You're in for a rough year. 49ers, Logan, an interesting team. Where do you rank them?
Yeah, the Niners. Oh, man, I love the 49ers, what they did last year. They're an S-tier team. The 49ers could easily make a Super Bowl run like they almost did, last year. Obviously got some question marks. The whole thing with the 49ers is I just trust their coaching. I trust Shanahan, believe it or not. I trust him as a coach. I saw what they did in the playoff games, how inspiring that performance is. I love teams that are able to realize that a playoff brand of football is just a physical, run the ball down your throat, all about clock and, time possession. Too many football fans nowadays act like they were born yesterday and don't remember the good old days of smash mouth football. Well, the 49ers definitely remember that. 49ers are a team that could easily make a deep playoff run.
Yeah, I don't want to disagree with that. I'd probably put them as an A-tier team. I think this team has all the intangibles, offense, defense to get it done. I'm just not a big fan of Trey Lance. And so we'll see, obviously, second-year guy. Didn't have a lot of reps in that first year. What will he be this year? We saw him struggle with accuracy. It was just launching straight fastballs at all of his receivers. And if he keeps doing that, then who knows what's going to happen. But not too high. I mean, I still think this team is going to be very good. They're going to win over 10 games. But I argue they probably could go to A-tier team. But once they make the playoffs, it's a team built for playoff runs. And so I can't argue with them having a chance, having a run at the Super Bowl. They're certainly capable of doing so. Another S-tier team, Tampa Bay Bucks. Maybe I'm a hype beast. Maybe because I'm close to the stadium. I live in Tampa. But, I got to put this hometown team up there. Tom Brady coming back. Now, Rob Gronkowski will not be there. That would be a big, big loss. But I do think this Bucks team, I put them as an S-tier because their division stinks. They got the Falcons, the Panthers, and the Saints. They struggle against the Saints. I don't know if Tom Brady's ever beat the Saints as a member of the Bucks. But, look, this team should have 5-6 easy wins there. So I think this Bucks team, they're returning a lot of key pieces, obviously. Mike Evans is still there. Russell Gage will be an improved guy that I don't think a lot of people have their eyes on. Chris Godwin will be a guy that will obviously have to wait and see what goes on with his return from his ACL injury. But without Rob Gronkowski, sure. But they have Cameron Brate should be able to step up and play pretty well. I'm just a Tom Brady sucker. Sorry, sue me. I'm betting them as S tier.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. The Bucks are just obvious Super Bowl contenders with the GOAT at the helm. Come on, how am I going to disagree with you there?
And your last team, the Titans.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and rank the Titans at an A-tier team. I love teams, continuity here. I love teams that can run the ball. I love when these teams are able to, have some mediocre quarterback play, but still find ways to win games. That's kind of what the Titans are. Brian Tannehill is a painfully mediocre quarterback. Unfortunately, when the lights are the brightest, he's more of a Kirk Cousins and it kind of shrinks under that. But you know what? Another year under his belt, obviously he's got Malik Willis breathing down his neck now. So hopefully that helps him up his game because they're paying him a crap load of money. So he better be pretty good. I love Derrick Henry. I love what their defense is. They play in a favorable division. If they can, steal a game or two, even maybe sweep the Colts, this is their division to win.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad putting them as an A tier. I'd probably put them as a B tier with the Colts, but I can't argue with them. This is a team that was the number 1 seed in the AFC last year. This team was great. Mike Vrabel is obviously one of the better head coaches that we have in the league. Derrick Henry's still there. Ryan Tannehill is serviceable. A little concerned about A.J. Brown not being there, but I think people make too big of differences with like wide receiver changes than they do, QB changes. I don't think it'll make a big difference for him. I do think Robert Woods will play a little bit of that role, so it'll be interesting to watch. But I think this team is very good. I think they'll be an A or B tier team. This is probably a team that will be on the fringe of either winning the division or making the playoffs as a whole. The last team to wrap it out, Washington Commanders. Enjoy your C tier, my friends. Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz, as we call him, because he doesn't deserve a W in his name. Look, Carson Wentz is an absolute bust. He's just not good. And I hope I'm wrong on this. I hope Carson Wentz has a better year. I sort of watch him. I hate watching him. He's just miserable. And the Washington Commanders fans are going to be in for a lot of fun in that stadium. And look, I just am not high on this team. They obviously, they just signed Terry McLaurin, so props to them for wrapping that up, not having that be something that lingers into the season. But I just not sold on this team. Carson Wentz has not proven it in his 5, 6, 7 years of playing at the QB position that he has what it takes. So C tier is where you go. You could be maybe better than some of these C tier teams next year, but you're not a B tier team.
I agree with you there. And the thing that differentiates them from a D tier team is they do have a lot of talent. Offensive, on the offensive side of the ball, scary Terry McLaurin, he's a beast. Antonio Gibson, as long as he stays healthy, he should be really solid there. Carson Wentz needs to not be a walking turnover, right? Take care of the dang ball, Carson Wentz. Be that higher paid quarterback. Show some more flashes of your year, before he got injured, where he was just taking the NFL by storm. You can channel a little bit more of that with Riverboat Ron as your coach. I love me some Ron Rivera. They should be a solid C, maybe fringe B tier team. Especially in that division, they could easily, steal some games from the Giants and Eagles. No doubt about that.
Yeah, I'd argue. I think I like it that all those Giants, Eagles, and Commanders all on the same kind of level. I think that's probably pretty accurate. One of these teams will win some games that they shouldn't, but who knows who's going to win? I mean, they're going to eat off of each other's. But that's our tier list. Let us know if you disagree with us down below in the comments. I'm sure a lot of people want to put other teams wherever. Take a screenshot of it and look back on at the end of the season and see exactly how we did. But I like the list we came up with, Logan. Any final thoughts for the people?
No, this was really fun. A lot to try to rack my brain. The NFL offseason was kind of crazy this year, so you just have to sit down and kind of think about it. As fantasy football and stuff approaches, hopefully that gets my mind more in a football thinking mode. But guys, it's really exciting and buckle up. It's going to be a great season. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of content coming your guys' way. Let us know what videos you want us to do or what you want us to talk about on future podcast episodes. Obviously, we're almost 2 months away from the start of the season. Well, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. It's been Austin and Logan. We'll catch you guys in the next podcast. Peace.